Hello everyone, I'm Colin, and I hope you're all ready to go back to church. Anna O'Brien, Glitter and Lasers, has just posted a new video all about manual lymphatic drainage, and it stars our friend and favorite, Leah Levitin from Lymph Love Club. Now, if you're familiar with my content, you will know that I have talked about Leah before.
Today's Lymph Church sermon is about how we communicate with our body when our body is not cooperating with us. So this little energy healing tip, if you're out there and you've got this thing that is bugging you, I want you to take your hands and rub them together, drum up some energy, and then I want you to take those nice warm hands and place it over that area where you're feeling that discomfort.
So you may remember that Leah has this little thing called Lymph Church that she does. I'm sure it's just like a little tongue-in-cheek phrase for the little information bites she puts on her social media, but I think it's silly and I will continue to make fun of it. But if you want to find Leah, I think a lot of her social media is under Lymph Love Club, or as Anna has said, Love Lymph Club. Very, very helpful. And the reason that Anna featured Leah in this video is because Leah does manual lymphatic drainage. Manual lymphatic drainage, or MLD, is basically a type of therapeutic massage. You have lymph that just kind of flows throughout your whole body. There are lymph vessels, which run kind of parallel to blood vessels, if I remember correctly. I'm not exactly sure what all lymph does, but there are some conditions that kind of disrupt the lymphatic system. And one of those things that can disrupt your lymphatic system is actually liposuction. And as we know, Anna has gotten so far 2 liposuction procedures for her lipedema.
So after surgery, you've had a lot of fluid, right? Most people come in, they're swollen, they're painful, inflamed. And so stimulating the entire system to sort of help get that fluid back into circulation in the cardiovascular system. Our website says what we do really well, and lipedema and lymphedema are on there. Yep, because we see a lot of those clients. And so it's like all of the protocols that we have and all the knowledge that we've acquired have come from our clients with lipedema and after surgery, and all of these amazing tips that you guys have gotten from each other as a community.
So while I'm not an expert, and I will never claim to be an expert, I can tell you that I have been deep into research about lipedema for the past several months. And there are some mixed reviews about whether MLD is actually useful for lipedema. And I know it's very confusing because lipedema and lymphedema sound very similar, but they're 2 very different things. Lymphedema is kind of a defect in your lymphatic system, and that's far too much to get into today. I'll be going over that later when I do my lipedema video. Also, as a side note, my script for that video is somewhere around 46 pages long at this point, and it's gonna be upwards of about 2 hours, I'm estimating. I'm kind of worried that it's gonna be too long and too dense, too much information for people to actually enjoy it. I'm trying to make it as entertaining as possible because I think it's interesting. I think a lot of people will think it's interesting, but there's just a lot of information in it. So while I'm not going to go too much into detail today, just know it's coming. In Anna's case, since she has had liposuction and claims to have a little bit of lymphedema as well, I think a lot of the consensus is that MLD could be useful for those things. That's a lot of what they go over in this video. Honestly, this video is kind of boring. There's not a lot to go over in Anna's actual video because it's mostly just going over what is MLD, how do you find an MLD like practitioner, and basically what the lymphatic massage entails. So I don't have a lot to say about Anna's video, but I do have quite a bit to say about Leah, because while I did kind of a cursory glance at some of the interesting things on her Instagram last time I talked about her, I've done a slightly deeper dive and I've uncovered a lot more concerning things. Like, is Leah certified in MLD? Yes. However, my concerns are not really about that, they're more about some other things. Because, you know, just because someone believes some things that are questionable doesn't mean that everything they do is wrong. But on the flip side, just because someone is doing something correctly doesn't mean that everything they do is right. Anna's video starts off with some gentle spa music to soothe you and desensitize you from the nonsense we're about to go over.
Right now, we're kind of squeegeeing the fluid.
Now, that's just a joke about what's to come, because this video actually, I don't think there was a lot of nonsense in it. Like, as controversial as MLD is for lipedema, it is useful for lymphedema and also like post-liposuction. And Anna has said before that while she does have lipedema, she also has a little bit of lymphedema.
And I've noticed that I've started having some lymphedema in my lower extremities, which I've never had before. I wore compression socks to sleep last night.
Well, she said that in a video, but then also later in a thread, she was trying to like clarify that she doesn't have lymphedema. And she seemed kind of upset that people were confused. And I kind of understand that because lipedema and lymphedema sound so similar. But she did indeed say she had some lymphedema, so I don't know what she's so upset about. So whatever, as controversial as MLD is, one thing that I have seen, basically, I'm willing to say close to 100% of lipedema experts, no matter where they fall on the spectrum, agree that compression is very good for lipedema. And that is something that is being done in this video. Now, while I said there wasn't a lot of nonsense in this video, I will say there were a couple of things that felt like tip-offs of what I was about to find.
Little effleurage to get started.
What does that mean?
So basically this is just communicating safety to your nervous system so that your lymphatic vessels can dilate. Just soothing, you know? We just get you set up.
Leah is more popular on like TikTok, and she does a lot of Instagram reels. Of course, it would figure Anna would find another social media influencer to get treatment from. And the problem with those types of social media is that they're very fast, they're very quick, they're just sound bites. It's hard to really get a grasp on someone's like true philosophy and like the way they think and why they believe the things they believe from just a very short, minute or under clip. But fortunately, I was able to find an interview that Leah did in 2023 on YouTube. This video is like half an hour long, and I'm not gonna go over all of it. I just wanna talk about a few points, because I think this interview reveals a lot. So the interview that Leah did was with a channel called Highest Intent, and I don't know why this surprised me given the name of the channel, but I went to their About section, and this is actually a company. And they produce THC products and adaptogenic mushrooms and like other like herbal supplements, that kind of thing, which is not in and of itself a red flag, but I would call it a pink flag, perhaps. If you're familiar with me, you probably know this, but like, I'm a skeptical person. I like hard science. I like studies. I like really well done studies. I don't buy into alternative medicine, although I am fascinated by alternative medicine as just a concept. I don't believe in any of it. And well, a lot of the stuff we're about to talk about really falls into that category. So first off, Leah just kind of gives a description of what the lymphatic system does. And I can't really vouch for whether or not this is accurate or not.
So I'm sure that everyone's heard of their cardiovascular system. We've got a heart as a central pump. It moves blood and nutrients and oxygen to every cell in our body. And our lymphatic system runs right alongside that. Mm-hmm. But there is no pump. And so there are certain ways that we can move it ourselves, but it's a huge part of our immune system. So it's almost like this invisible, forgotten system, maybe like redheaded stepchild. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's a huge part of our immune system because the white blood cells in our immune system that kind of combat any sort of illness or disease. I mean, when it's functioning in this perfect world, right? that no one lives in, right. It can neutralize the things that are invading our body.
I do genuinely believe the lymphatic system is very important. And I think arguably she's right that the medical system doesn't really focus on it as much as other things. But like there are lymphedema and just lymphatic specialists who are in the like traditional medicine realm. So I wouldn't say the lymphatic system is completely ignored in the medical system, but maybe she's right. Maybe she's right that it is like an under-recognized sphere. And then Leah starts talking about how she got into manual lymphatic drainage.
Interested in doing this work and helping patients in this way?
Well, I've been a massage therapist for 5 or 6 years now. And my mom, she got breast cancer back in 98.
Okay.
And she was doing a lot of like holistic stuff, you know, dry brushing, the juice fast, the colon, the coffee enemas to
Yes.
flush her colon, all like taking a bunch of supplements. She went vegan, gluten-free, I mean, just like no sugar, no nothing.
Yeah.
And that was a huge lifestyle change for her. She went the holistic route and really changed her life. And I think that that's why she's still with us today and doing well.
Yay, Mom.
You know, just like 74 and good at it, you know?
Uh-oh. Oh dear. Now that I would definitely call a red flag. And I'd be willing to say a lot of those things are probably healthy and fine to do if you have cancer. But like, doing those things does not necessarily cure your cancer or prevent it. In fact, I think the population of cancer patients are so targeted by the alternative medicine sphere. So Leah talks about the fact that like she started as kind of just a massage therapist, just a regular massage therapist, not an MLD therapist. And she talks about certain people who she couldn't help.
There were just people who kind of came and went on my massage table that I just couldn't help. Like because I didn't understand chronic inflammation.
Yeah.
I didn't understand the lymphatic system. So while I was helping a certain group of people by addressing their fascia and their muscles and their tendons and their pain in that sense,
Right.
there was just an isolated group of occasional head scratchers, literally scratching my head, just being like, I don't know what's going on with you. I don't know what's going on with your body. And it just kind of led to deeper questions and this like learning journey. It's hard to look at lymphatic drainage as from like a symptoms standpoint, because as I'd mentioned, it's like we're moving this magical fluid and improving every function in our body. It's connected to all these different systems. It's good for people who are healthy and don't have anything wrong in terms of the health of our cells and the function of our cells. But a lot of people that come into my clinic are coming in for maybe they've got some hormonal imbalances, autoimmunity, just like fluid retention, maybe chronic fatigue syndrome. That's not all the things that modern medicine have not really been able to help with. Sure. Those are the people who kind of fall through the cracks. And no surprise, the lymphatic system it's like, oh shit, well, we're taking care of this. And this is helping check all the boxes.
Right.
And so I call them like my medical rejects almost. You know, they've been to every doctor. These labs come back and they're just being told that they're fine. Everything's normal. And it just, they know that something's going on.
There's kind of an implication that like, well, she learned MLD and now she could help these people. And my question is, well, is there not the possibility that there will be people that aren't helped by either thing? I don't know. It could just be the way she phrased it, but that's just how it came across to me. So Leah moves on from just regular massage and she gets into MLD. Specifically the Vader method of MLD. And there's a few types of MLD, and they briefly discuss that in Anna's video, but they don't really get too in depth. And again, I can't say a lot about the different techniques. I don't know the difference between them, but I don't really want to focus necessarily on the technique. I want to focus on where Leah learned the technique. She is certified in MLD, but she got a lot of her influence from someone named Dr. Perry Nicholson, who is a chiropractor.
And I found Dr. Perry Nicholson. He started Stop Chasing Pain. He's like a chiropractor in New Jersey.
I love that.
And I swear, I don't think I would be where I am today if it weren't for him.
She mentions his kind of brand, I guess you'd say, called Stop Chasing Pain. Well, it's time for my weekly plug for my favorite podcast called Oh No, Ross and Carrie. Because coincidentally, they just finished a 3-part series about chiropractic. And I will include a link to that in the description because I really recommend it. Chiropractic is kind of interesting because there is some evidence that certain parts of it can help you, specifically like certain types of pain it can relieve. But the kind of background behind chiropractic is kind of crazy and really not very science-based. It seems to me that like chiropractors have kind of just stumbled into something that might potentially help with some things. But the problem is, in the field of chiropractic, it is so common for them to also subscribe to a lot of alternative medicines that are not scientifically backed. And while I haven't really done a deep dive into this Dr. Perry Nicholson, well, he does have a YouTube account that kind of shows what he's all about.
Boo. Ah.
So there's that guy. And just like this chiropractor, Leah is one of those people who seems to not just practice this evidence-based MLD, but she also buys into a lot of things that I think are a little whack.
I was just doing a post on red light therapy the other day. Red light therapy is amazing. It's amazing.
Is it? Do you mind if we take a brief dip into red light therapy? Yeah.
And then there's just this expansive amount of like different types of light that our body responds to, because we evolved outside. We're like plants. We need to be outside, and there's specific photoreceptors in our skin. Photoreceptors just take that light and turn it into a different kind of energy in our body.
Mhm.
So it basically fuels our mitochondria. And it charges our lymph, because it's mostly water, this lymphatic fluid that flows through the channels. It's like 96% water. So it charges this water. It creates all this like cascade of physiological changes that we actually don't 100% understand yet. Just to be real, this is like a fairly new field of research, but it's really exciting.
Okay.
So you could put it on your gut. I mean, gut health is just so
Huge.
important. The brain gut axis, our brain and our gut talk to each other. A lot of the serotonin's made there. So having a unit that you can use on your gut or your head, maybe even like, your skull,
Mhm.
those near infrared ones that are between like 810, 850, that's like the magic number for like penetrating the skull and all that tissue, just to make sure it gets down to our juicy filling.
The problem with a lot of these like alternative medicine people is they kind of co-opt science-y words and science-y sounding concepts, but they kind of warp what they really mean to suit their own purposes. You will hear a lot of people, especially lately it seems, talk about how most serotonin is produced in the gut. And I'm not going to debate that fact. I think that has been scientifically proven. But the problem is the serotonin that's produced in your gut is not the same and does not serve the same function as the serotonin in your brain. There's a lot of talk of gut health and like the gut-brain connection. I don't know if it's just me like stumbling across this more and more because of like algorithms and stuff, or if it actually is growing in popularity. I think maybe it's a little bit of both. But like lately, I don't know, just like on Instagram and YouTube and whatever, I just keep seeing these things. And while I'm not an expert, I can definitely point you to some experts who can kind of break down why these are such misconceptions. One person I can recommend very highly is Dr. Ina on TikTok and Instagram. I hope I'm pronouncing her name right, but her username on Instagram is _dr_INNA, and I'll try to leave a link for her as well. But I really enjoy her Instagram. I think she's more popular on TikTok, but I'm just on Instagram slightly more. Dr. Ina is a psychology professor. She's not a psychologist, but she is a professor and she has a lot of knowledge. And she uses her platforms to kind of debunk these concepts. Another person who does that on Instagram is someone called Feed Your Mental.
Mental things is scary. Like,
I assume she's probably on TikTok, but I don't know, just because I only watch her stuff on Instagram. She does a lot of the same thing, and actually I learned a lot about the whole misconception about the serotonin in the gut and the gut-brain connection thing from her. But yeah, you'll hear stuff like that, talking about that red light therapy. There's not a lot of evidence behind red light therapy, and you'll hear these like alternative medicine people talk about epigenetics, which again, like epigenetics is a real thing, but like not the way that Leah talks about it.
So if you think about where our lymphatic fluid comes from, it comes from the interstitial fluid. This is the fluid that surrounds every cell in our body. And most of our cells carry DNA. And so we're talking ancestral wisdom and memories and emotions that are passed down to us. So I think that our cells are really wise. And I think that when we are making more lymphatic fluid and really disrupting this interstitial fluid and just shaking our cells up, that this allows the body to release things that we don't even know are there.
I don't have a polite way to say that that's just ridiculous nonsense. I think the reason a lot of these alternative medicine people co-opt all these sciencey sounding phrases and concepts is usually because they're trying to sell you something that you do not need. So one useful thing that I found out in Anna's video is that Leah's practice is actually not called Lymph Love Club. The practice itself is called Align. Align, Massage, and Lymphatics. So naturally, I went to their website. So I scrolled down to close to the bottom of the homepage, and it says, why you might need lymphatic drainage. A lot of science plus a little magic. And, well, actually, I might reverse those things. Some of the things that this website claims that MLD can help you with is feel less swollen, bloated, and puffy. I'm willing to buy that. I think if you're suffering with lymphedema or you just come out of a surgery like liposuction, you're obviously going to be swollen and have a lot of fluid retention, and that is something that MLD can help you with. Healing on a cellular level. I don't know about that one. Decrease inflammation. I'm willing to buy that. Powerful pain relief, potentially. Restore balance. I guess. I don't really know what that means in their context, but I will tell you that there are little symbols above each of these things, and this one has the yin-yang symbol, which is interesting. And perhaps the most worrisome of these is release trapped emotions.
What does healing our trauma and moving our lymph have to do with each other? Well, since I got certified in lymphatic drainage, one of the biggest things that I noticed was the massage that I was doing for years before the lymphatic work, there's a clear differentiator. I noticed with the lymphatic work that a lot of my clients were experiencing emotional releases on the table, and it just made me really think that lymphatic work is a little bit more profound than science can capture right now.
One of those really pervasive concepts that have gotten popular on social media is the connection between trauma and your body, specifically emotional trauma, right? Because there's two types of trauma. There's physical trauma, like a concussion, but there's also emotional trauma. And this is something that those two, Dr. Ina and Feed Your Mental, talk about a lot, is the misconceptions around what trauma is and what trauma does to your brain and your psychology. Because contrary to popular belief, the body does not keep the score, Bessel van der Kolk. There are a lot of issues with that guy and that concept and that book. There's just not a lot of scientific evidence to support that that's true. I think a lot of the problem here is, specifically with MLD, you get one-on-one physical touch and care from a person who's trying to help you, and it feels nice and it can relax you and feel healing potentially, but this is not a replacement for real psychological help. There's no evidence to support that MLD can release your emotional trauma. That's just not how anything works. I think one of the most annoying things about a lot of alternative medicine is when they start talking about Eastern versus Western medicine.
I guess my question to you is, when it comes to Eastern versus Western, what are your thoughts? Are they, when it comes to the lymphatic system, do they work together? Should they be separate? How do those work in your mind?
Well, it's so interesting because I do feel like Eastern versus Western. It's so frustrating, right? We need both. Be in an emergency room anywhere in the world, but in America, it's an amazing, doctors and nurses and medical staff, they're saving lives. They are. But unfortunately, it's the synergy of our body and how everything works together. Doctors aren't really taught about the lymphatic system. They're not really trained to address the body in this way, in a more alternative way, more like functional medicine. And from an Eastern approach, we've been doing lymphatic drainage for a really long time. Yeah. A lot of people, whenever their lymphatic system goes awry, they usually will seek Western medicine, because that is, we need diagnostics. We need to look at something to confirm that it's not something else. They can use an ultrasound or something to check it out, to get a scan, to at least cross that off the list. Because once you cross it off the list, that's where you can bring in the alternatives. Yeah. So in my mind, they need to kiss. They're both valuable, they're both helpful, but it does feel like the lymphatic system is tapping into something that's this desire and wisdom to heal itself. Yeah. And it's natural.
I think a lot of the reason, honestly, why Eastern medicine as a concept is really popular in alternative medicine is because there's this frankly harmful stereotype of like Asian cultures having this like mysterious wisdom that we Westerners don't understand. And I'm not going to make any comment about like traditional things. There are plenty of things that people do for tradition that they just like to do and enjoy and makes them happy. I'm an atheist and I still celebrate Christmas. But one of the more harmful things about pitting Eastern and Western medicine against each other, and I've made this comment before, but I'll repeat it here again, is that like it really undervalues and is frankly insulting to like Eastern doctors, like Asian doctors who do practice science, because science as a concept is not a Western thing, because they don't actually mean Eastern medicine, they mean traditional ancient medicine. There's traditional ancient medicine in basically every culture. I live in like Appalachia, but I don't practice Appalachian folk medicine. It's there, it exists, it's a tradition, but that doesn't mean it's right, because you'll notice when Leah talks about Eastern medicine, she talks about ancient practices that we've been doing for centuries. But all this is an appeal to tradition fallacy. Just because something is old doesn't mean it's right. Look at something like bloodletting, the humor system of medicine. That's something that was practiced for centuries and is not accurate. And she also talked about coffee enemas, and I did find something about coffee enemas on the Align website. There's again, really no evidence behind coffee enemas being helpful. That's actually another thing that Ross and Carrie investigated on their podcast, and I'll try to remember to put a link to that as well, because it's entertaining at the very least. So, in conclusion, compression, good. MLD, slightly supported for certain things like post-liposuction and lymphedema. Kind of debated about lipedema. And I do not trust Leah. I think honestly, from what I'm beginning to see, finding an MLD therapist who doesn't buy into this stuff is, I think, starting to become a bit of a minefield. So I would say if you're interested in MLD, do your research, check out their website, check out the reviews, look up some of their practices, look up what they think the practices are helping with and whether that's scientifically supported. I mean, if some of these things have helped you, I'm not gonna tell you to stop. I mean, something like MLD is like, especially this Vader method, seems like a very light touch massage. It's not going to hurt you. It might hurt your wallet because Align doesn't accept insurance, which is interesting. But as far as it like harming your physical person, I would say no, but also maybe see your doctor if you have a real concern. I think that's pretty much common sense, at least you would hope. All right, y'all, I'm concluding the sermon. Lymph Church is over. No threads benediction today, but I did find out from Anna's story posts on Instagram that she is starting up a newsletter. Now, I don't know what the deal is. I have signed up like 3 times to this newsletter, and I haven't gotten any kind of confirmation email or message or anything. And like, I used a different name, I used an email that wouldn't connect to this channel or anything about me. I don't know if it's just like the service she's using doesn't send a confirmation email or something. I don't know what that's all about, but hopefully after 3 tries, I've been signed up for her newsletter, although I don't think at this point she has sent out any yet. I'll keep you updated. Honestly, I think that is probably going to be a lot of boring fluff, but hey, a lot of what I'm interested in is boring fluff. I mean, look at my channel. And I'm sure I'm going to attract a lot of people in my comments who disagree with me about certain things. That's fine. If certain things have helped you, I'm not here to yuck your yum. I'm just saying, for me, I like to just follow wherever the evidence leads, and I think a lot of these things do not currently have a lot of scientific backing. Some of that could just be due to like, we need more studies. I am always for getting more studies. But as for right now, there's just a lot of this stuff that I would just avoid until further notice. All right, y'all, well, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoy my content. So I'll see you next time.
And guess what it was? The lymphatic system. When I started to do the work I'm going to show you, within 3 sessions, I felt 50% better. Within 3 months, I was about 90% better. Now I'm better than I ever was, and I'm going to be 58 years old. Hashtag beast mode monster is what that is.